we would look at those pricing metrics. We also look at the pacing. So how far ahead are properties getting booked? We're looking at what are our expense ratios in each category. How much is housekeeping costing us compared to the booking level? What are supplies running? How much is labor overall costing us in taxes? How much is insurance costing us? General liability and umbrella insurance, all those things that help protect our company and also our property owners and also our guests.
It sounds like you almost have to be an accountant. This is episode number 83 of the Short-Term Rental Success Stories podcast. Are you an investor that's looking to have your home professionally managed? Go to cohostit.com for more information. Welcome back to Short-Term Rental Success Stories. I'm your host, Julian Sage. This is a show where I talk to hosts about their journeys in starting and growing their short-term rental business. My goal is that you'll be able to walk away with practical information that'll help you become a better host and learn how to scale your business. Like any exceptional host, we all strive for 5-star reviews, so please go on over to iTunes and let us know what you enjoy, as it really helps support the show. If you haven't done so already, go on over to our Facebook group, The Host Nation, to connect with the community. Hey, what is going on, Host Nation? I'm super excited to be back again with you this week. So a couple of exciting announcements. One is that John and I are actually looking for capital partners. So if you are interested in investing into short-term rentals and you want to be able to just say, hey, John and Julian, I don't want to actually go out and find these properties myself. I just want to be able to basically give you guys the money, and then you guys give me a return on my capital from you going out and doing what you do best, which is all about short-term rentals. So we are working with a limited amount of capital partners. You do have to be an accredited investor, but we do have an offering available that is all geared towards short-term rentals and specifically master leases. So if you are interested in master lease investing, you're looking for that scalability and those really nice returns, it's something that we do have available, again, only for accredited investors. But the best way that you can find out more information and be able to connect with us is go to shorttermsage.com/capital partner, and you'll be able to find out more about this offering, talk to me. And again, this offering is only open to accredited investors. The second piece of exciting news is a tool that we created for you guys if you are interested in finding a vacation rental agent. So if you are interested in purchasing a vacation rental property, I have an amazing team. I work with Erica Muller from Vrolio. And so we created this tool where we can actually connect you with an agent across the country. So if you have an interest in purchasing a vacation rental, you want to be able to find an expert, we can definitely do that for you. Of course, if you are interested in talking with us, maybe you're interested in management services, of course, we'll always be there. But if you are just trying to find an agent and you need to know, who can I trust in this market? We have those resources available for you. This is the first time this is available. So you can go to shorttermsage.com/vacation rental agent. Or if you go to the tools section on the website, shorttermsage.com, at the tools bar, you'll be able to find that form. You just plug in a few little pieces of information, such as, where you're trying to acquire this property, and then we'll be able to connect you with our database of agents that are part of the Vrolio team. Really awesome tool. So again, shorttermsage.com/vacation rental agent for that, or go to the tools section on the main website of Short Term Sage. Today, I had the special honor of speaking with Christina Thoreson from Chattanooga Vacation Rentals, a full-service management company with 23 properties currently under management. In this episode, Christina shares her experience of scaling her vacation rental business, her system for onboarding the right clients, the screening process for hiring full-time housekeepers, and a whole lot more. Of course, if you like my show notes for this episode, go to shorttermsage.com/STR83, or if you like my show notes sent directly to your inbox every week, then go to shorttermsage.com/show notes. With all that being said, on to this week's conversation. Hey, welcome back, Host Nation, to another episode of Short-Term Rental Success Stories. In this episode, I have the special honor of speaking with Christina Thoreson. Christina, would you please introduce yourself to the Host Nation and let them know who you are and what inspired you to get into short-term rentals?
Good morning. I'm Christina Thoreson, and we accidented into the short-term vacation rental business. We had several properties and they were being managed by somebody we found out was not licensed. And so we made the decision to become licensed and manage our own. And as soon as other folks that had homes, second homes, found out about it, they started coming to us and saying, Thor, Christina, please help us. And so here we are today, accidentally having more than 20 properties.
Nice, nice. So definitely want to go back to that original, when you got started. What you said, first thing, you said you had somebody that was managing your property that wasn't licensed. What year did you first get your first vacation rental, and what was that process like with even acquiring the property?
Sure. So in about 2003, my husband built a house on the bluff of Lookout Mountain that overlooked that valley to the west. And in 2004, when interest rates shifted again, he thought, ooh, I don't want to pay for this living here anymore. Maybe I could make it a vacation rental. And so scoured around and found somebody who was managing rentals. And we didn't know enough to know, do they need to be licensed? And yes, in fact, in Tennessee, you have to be licensed. Um, Georgia doesn't have a similar requirement, but when we found out this person wasn't licensed and didn't have an escrow account, wasn't holding the guest money until the stay was completed, which is required by law in Tennessee, we decided that maybe we should do it ourselves.
And did you intend to like purchase a vacation rental, or was it one of those things where it's just like, hey, we got to save some money, or hey, we're not going to be staying in it? Like, what was that situation like?
So it was before he and I were married that he built this house. We were just friends actually at the time. And it became a vacation rental when he decided not to live there anymore. The good news was it was sort of ideally configured for it.
And why not stick with the long term rental? Like, what would make you think back in like 2004, like, oh, this would be a really good vacation rental?
Sure. Well, at the time, we both had, well, I had other long term rentals, and long term renters might let something go, like a leak under a kitchen sink, and you might not find out about it for 12 months. I actually had a long term renter that when I came to do an inspection on the property, I was getting ready to convert the mortgage to a shorter term and went with the appraiser, found out they had pulled up the rugs in the back bedroom and were fixing motorcycles inside. And that doesn't happen in short term rentals. So, quite frankly, being able to put eyes on the property so frequently and make sure the property is well cared for was a big guiding force in us switching to short term.
And so 2004, you had this person that wasn't licensed. How was the place booking? Was it something that like did you know that you would be able to start managing this property yourself, or did you think it was completely foreign?
Sure. So, in about 2013, we found out that she wasn't licensed and realized there was that requirement. And the property had not been booking well. We actually had two more, and they hadn't been booking very well. And we found out later that when the calls came in to book the property, she would divert them to her personal units. And so our advertising marketing that we were paying for was falling flat because they weren't booking our properties. We actually, back in the day of Flipkey, I don't know if you've ever heard of Flipkey, but they were an old online travel agency. We were paying to be on that site, and found out there were 186 unanswered messages that the manager wasn't answering the messages from guests. So that was problematic, and we decided we had to take care of it.
So you were paying a property manager to manage it as well as paying for the marketing of the property?
Correct.
Wow. And what does that structure look like?
We were just paying her a percentage of rents. We were paying for the cleaning, and we were paying for the advertising, which, gosh, that made it great for the manager. So,
Yeah, get to pay for them to do their job.
right, exactly. So when we set up our company, we actually set up a structure that the owners can be completely hands off, and they simply get a deposit in their account once a month, and we only contact them if there's a repair that is needed that exceeds a certain limit, or if there's a problem with the property we need to take care of.
So even with that, I mean, I'm not super savvy with like every location's regulations, but you said that with a person needing to be licensed because it needs to go into an escrow account, does the OTAs, when they are holding that money, does that not kind of supersede that, or do you still have to be licensed even using an OTA?
Even if you're just using an OTA, you must be licensed in Tennessee. There's no similar requirement in Georgia. However, in our company, 50 to 60% of our bookings are direct. So they come directly through our website. People call us, people book online. And we're trying to even scale that to a higher number. We brought on somebody for marketing about 2.5 years ago, and she took us from about 20% direct bookings to 50 to 60 every month.
Wow. Okay. Definitely want to get into that. But the growth of the company. So in 2013, you said, hey, this person, they're not doing this the right way. Let's just, we're not getting what we expect out of them. So why don't we just, start doing this ourselves? Like you had a full-time job, correct? During that time, you had some other stuff going on.
My husband. Yes,
So
yes.
why take on this venture and actually start doing this for other people as well?
Sure. So we started doing it for ourselves because obviously my husband, as a military policeman, was a rule follower and believed strongly that if there's a rule, we should all be on the same page and have to follow the rule. If you don't like the rule, let's go change it. But if there's a rule in place, we should follow it. So, and I agree the same way. And so we decided to just sort of take it on with our two properties, and we've grown very organically until this past year when we actually started strategically marketing to owners. We doubled in size every year for the first 5 years. And it was because there was such a need and there wasn't anybody really in our market doing it legally. So that was right place, right time. Lucky.
Did you feel that this was something that you could have easily done? Like what was the like what were maybe some of those first fears that you had when you said like, hey, we're going to take this over from the property manager who's really kind of been running the show?
I didn't know enough to know that I should be nervous about that. So we took it on, and in hindsight, knowing what I know now, I probably would have gone ahead and joined the Vacation Rental Managers Association, VRMA. I probably would have subscribed to Matt Landau's VRMB. I probably would have, and I'm not sure if Amy was actually operating yet, VRM Intel. I would have subscribed to that publication. I would have done all that at the very beginning had I known it existed. So if I were just starting today, I would do those things immediately because I think education elevates practice so easily without having to duplicate it. I don't have to bang my head against the wall and figure it out. That's kind of what we've done, is just bumped around and figured it out a little bit at a time.
And what was did you, when you started managing your own property, did you start to, was that the intent, was to like, hey, let's start managing other people's, or was that a progression as well?
That was a progression as well, for sure. About 4 months into operating our own, we got a call from a friend who said, hey, I heard you're marketing these properties that you own as vacation rentals. Would you like to do our cabin? And it just literally grew from there. We actually had a guy year one who found out about us from a realtor, and he lived in another state. And he simply FedExed us the keys to his house and said, make it a vacation rental. And we didn't even meet him the first 3.5 years we managed his property. We just sent him a check every month.
Wow. And what was the extent of that? I mean, they say, hey, turn my place into a vacation rental. Did you have to like furnish it? Did you like know like how much to spend? Like what how do you handle something like that?
So we said, what things are in your house now? It was already furnished, thankfully. What things are in your house now that you would be very upset if they disappeared or were broken? And so they gave us basically a list, and we packed that stuff up and shipped it to them in the first 3 days we had the property. So I mean, basically, we just packed up their precious things and either shipped them to them or put them in their owner's closet and put it online. Had the professional pictures taken and wrote the descriptions and started renting it. We had a rent, I think we had a renter, somebody booked like within 24 hours of us putting it online. And we were sort of surprised and excited that that's the way it worked.
Was it pretty easy for you to be able to find like the right people in place? Because I mean, you guys were still working your full time jobs at the time, and still are still working full time. Did you have any difficulties like finding people to be able to help operate the business?
No, initially we were doing all the operational stuff, and we had one housekeeper. As we grew in volume, we added a second housekeeper. And we just sort of grown that organically as well. This past year during the pandemic in March, we actually started employing everybody who we've hired before now has been somebody we knew or somebody who knew that person. We just started using something called Predictive Index. Steve Trover at Levere Company got us started with that and helped us with that. And we The last 3 housekeepers or 4 that we've hired, we use that predictive index tool to pre-screen folks. And it has been an incredibly powerful tool because it lets people self-select that want to clean and love detail orientation and want to make things look beautiful, as opposed to finding somebody who maybe needs a job, but that's not their goal, right? So now we have people who wanted a job, but also have that in their personality to behave that way and have that detail orientation, which is fabulous. And they are outstanding.
So this is basically just like a personality assessment tool that you use before, like, so you're marketing online and then you have them fill out this form.
Correct. So that's like the first step of the application is you fill out this form online. The second step is a cognitive index where they do a test for cognitive ability. It's really powerful stuff, really powerful stuff.
And what kind of spurred you to do that? That's one of the first times that I've heard. Like, usually people will, maybe they have a recommendation, or maybe they know somebody, or they put out a job for just a regular cleaner, and then they ask them to take on some additional responsibilities. So what made you lead to this tool?
Sure. So we started working last fall with a company called Ventory, Brooke Fouts, who helps business development, inventory development, literally the name of the company, Ventory. And he made us aware of using that combination of the personality index with a job application. And I'd never really thought about putting those two together, but he'd used it in past iterations and in his company now. And so once we were aware of it, we started investigating it further. So we've been super lucky. And I think it's so amazing about this industry is people are willing to help each other. And while even in our city, even in Chattanooga, we have a new competitor. He's professional, he's licensed, he is a CPA. We work together on making our whole industry better, and people are willing to give their time and energy. It's really kind of fabulous. I've not experienced that necessarily in other industries. So it's lovely to have people who are willing to share their time and energy. When you reached out and said, "Hey, are you interested in talking about what y'all do?" My first answer is, sure, how can I help? Because that's been shown to us. So people like Brooke, CJ Stam over in Blue Ridge, have just opened their hearts and said, "Hey, what do you need? How can I help?" And I think that's really powerful in our industry.
So you're actually even collaborating with your competition, so to speak, to help each other in, like, what aspects?
Particularly right now, advocacy. The city of Chattanooga is trying to outlaw non-owner occupied vacation rentals. I know y'all face that in DC as well. And we actually helped the city with that ordinance when they originally developed it, and helped the mayor's office and the city attorney, and just worked with them from the standpoint of, here's our perspective as managers. This is what we see would be good for our community, because we do believe strongly in giving back to our community. And so we have this challenge again. There's a city council person who thinks we should outlaw non-owner occupied vacation rentals. They're concerned about the level of maybe taking away affordable housing or problems with trash and noise. And we haven't actually had any of those. I can say the saturation of our market is, if I have $100, I could give you 60 cents. I still have $100. That's our inventory metric. That 60 cents is vacation rental, so it's not affecting affordable housing in any measurable way. We'd have to be at a much higher ratio for it to do that. But we're working together with these other competitors to help bring information to the city council so they can make an informed decision. If they do outlaw it based on just current inventory, they're going to lose about $250,000 a year in sales and use tax revenue, which is impactful for a city our size. It's not huge. So, and the state, all the taxes together, the sales and use tax, is about $950,000. So we think that that's a powerful thing to work together to help the city better understand.
That's pretty interesting, because when I think of Chattanooga, I typically would maybe think of maybe like a vacation, smaller town vacation destination. But it's one of those names that I hear pretty often, and I think of like log cabins, retreats, kind of getaways. So it's interesting that the city would try to basically ban vacation rentals, because when you say non-owner occupied, that basically just means nobody can list their properties unless they're living in it.
Right. Right. And I think particularly with COVID, it's a mistake because vacation guests we find are trending more toward single houses. They want that privacy. They want control over their space. They want to be able to cook their own meals or bring takeout from a restaurant. The way people travel has changed a little bit.
So what are some of the things that you're doing with the local vacation rental managers to be able to help prevent any of these types of regulation changes from happening?
We're just having conversations. We're showing up to meetings virtually, of course, now, Zoom meetings with the city council. We're communicating with them by email, text, and phone, and trying to help them have information that is actionable, that they can make the best decision for the constituency, for our city. Now, most of our properties intentionally have been outside the city because of that risk of legislation change, because we see that happening in other cities around the world, and we follow that. I mean, alert.google.com is a powerful tool to be able to see what's going on in the world.
So you're using the Google alerts to basically keep up to date with regulation when any keywords come into play into that particular city. That's how you're keeping up to date with everything?
Yeah, that's one of the ways we keep up. Also, we, like you said, you go on the boards on maybe Facebook or LinkedIn groups to try and find out what's happening and what best practices are. I mean, I think everybody who is working in this space, different people come to it for different reasons. But humans just generally want to do the best they can at what they're doing, right? Which is why something like the podcast is so powerful. In order to do the best, hearing what other people do and maybe adapting for your location is super helpful. Find out that best practice, and then how can I employ it here? How can I make it work for our team and our community and our owners?
Awesome. And so going back to when you were growing this company, so you took on this other property. You said you've been doubling every year. When did it come a point where it's just like, this is becoming maybe a little bit more than I can manage myself?
Oh, yeah. So that was probably in year 2. We hired another person to handle reservations. We couldn't handle the volume of calls and the volume of inquiries. And our goal was to answer in like 3 minutes, which we were accomplishing, but we had to bring somebody else on. And that's when we started that process. And of course, we didn't know what we didn't know. And by about 16, we needed to bring on more reservation team and more housekeepers as we kept growing in size. We've lost some houses in the last year to folks that maybe are not licensed and not doing the right thing and promising the moon and, cutting their fees to owners so it looks like the owner's going to make more money. And they're only on one listing site, and that's frustrating. Plus, they haven't done right in other arenas. We like to investigate our competition. When we find somebody who's not doing right, we're going to tell our former owners about that, and then they have to make their own decisions. But we also have intentionally gotten rid of some properties because the owners weren't willing either to maintain the property or, do what needed to be done. That inventory, as you get bigger, what we're finding is that inventory that is getting negative reviews negatively impacts the other inventory. And that's tough. We have to make sure that everything we're doing creates that bright line expectation that that guest is going to be well served and find the house in good condition. It's challenging. It's knowing that we have 2 customers. So we have the owner as a customer and the guest as a customer, and balancing those expectations.
So all of the listings that you're taking, you're putting them underneath your profile and rather than co-hosting them. So whenever
we don't do co-host, we want to be a full service management company. And because the property could potentially affect other properties in our program, in our family, we want to be professional managers and make sure we're taking care of all the details.
Hey, this is Julian, and I wanted to be able to give you our newest book, Airbnb Secrets Revealed, How to Build a Fortune on Airbnb Without Owning Property. In this book, we talk about the concepts of rental arbitrage investing as well as co-hosting and how you can build a business leveraging other people's properties. This book is perfect for the new short-term rental investor, and it's something that I wish that I had when I first started, as it would have saved me a lot of trouble and helped me to understand how to be able to leverage the power of short-term rental investing in your own real estate portfolio. If you'd like to get our newest book completely for free, go to shorttermsage.com/free book. Now, back to the show. So how do you work with people, because you said that there's regulations, there's upkeep, people probably aren't living there, maybe the furniture is a mess. How do you walk someone through the process of, hey, I've got a property and, I'm looking to have this managed?
Sure. So one of the first steps is we make sure that legally it can be a vacation rental. And there are some regulations in some areas where you can't get a permit or it's not legal to operate a short-term rental. Long-term rental is the only option. That's our sort of first test. The second is we physically go to the property and meet with the owner, because the property needs to be a match for our program and that owner needs to be a match for our paradigm, which is we're going to do the full service. We're going to send you a check. We don't need your help. And if you want to manage a vacation rental, great. We'll give you information about how to do that. We even have something that we send people and say, here, these are all the things you probably need to do. Because what we find is those folks who are managing for themselves, we want to elevate their practice, because if somebody comes and stays in a vacation rental, it affects our whole market if they have a negative experience. So we'd rather help them have a better experience. It'll help them make more money. We're all about elevating that practice for the whole community.
So you're actually giving other people, other prospects where maybe it might not be a good fit, you're giving them material for them to be able to better enhance, if they decide to manage it themselves. How do you qualify if someone is a good fit for you, though?
Some of it is personality. Sometimes we can tell right up front that they want to be involved in the day-to-day details, which is not a match for us. Sometimes the property is not to the condition that it needs to be, and they either are unable or unwilling to change that condition, and it won't represent our portfolio well. And so we just decline. Thanks, we're sorry, we can't help you.
And how do you handle, so let's say someone has a property, do you go through like furnishing it for them? Like if someone says like, hey, I just purchased this place, how do you work with someone that is maybe more of an investor client?
Sure. Well, we make a lot of recommendations about type and style of furniture. We require new mattresses if we're furnishing from the ground up. We recommend not a lot of tchotchkes, some interesting, unusual details. Folks want to come somewhere that's not like their home. And so they want it to be clean and simple, but unique and interesting. So we walk them through that process.
And you said that you've actually had to let some clients go because of upkeep issues. How do you handle a property that's in affecting your your brand, your portfolio, and an owner isn't maybe doing the maintenance that they need, and you have guests that are checking in, or all of these other issues? Like, how do you handle something like that?
So the owners typically don't do the maintenance themselves. We work with the vendor and authorize that. If they won't authorize something like that, or they're not willing to invest the money or not able, we have to simply say, this is not a match for our program. These are the things that we need. And when those things happen, we can bring your listing back into the program. But for now, we're going to have to turn it off and not book it, because it's negatively affecting the other properties.
So with your team, you said one of the first people that you hired was reservations. You said you were getting around a 20% at the time, direct bookings.
Right. Correct.
So, how are people finding you? Even like, were you just like, are you just like a savant at like, Google and, getting to the top, or like, how are people actually just finding your properties directly?
I wish I were a savant at Google. I think that'll be increasingly important in the coming years. No, we had a website and we were marketing on all the social media channels, and we were asking past guests to tell their friends and families. We're giving them a friends and family discount if they recommended somebody to us. Here's a card. My husband actually was sending, and I think he still is, writing a handwritten card to every guest. Thank you very much for staying. Here's a friends and family discount card, like a little business card size. And because we truly appreciate every guest, and they're willing to take They may work 50 weeks a year and have 2 weeks off. And if they're willing to come spend 3 or 4 days or a week with us and spend their hard-earned money with us, we are very grateful. And we want them to have a great experience. And that's our goal, right? That gratitude, I guess.
Have you had any issues with, like, trying to keep things really personal like that, as well as growing the business and handling operations? Like, how do you manage all of the different aspects of this business?
Oh, it certainly is a challenge. With growth comes opportunity and challenge for sure. So we see a continually striving, I guess, to keep that personal aspect. And we empower our reservations team, particularly because they interact with the guest, to be personal and real. All of our reservationists live here locally. They can tell you on Thursday night what's the best Mexican restaurant. Or if on Sunday we want to go have Italian for lunch, where should we go? And they say, oh, go here, have the veal piccata. They know the market personally. So we still have that local feel. We've had a couple of opportunities to change that and do some outsourcing with the phone calls and the answering of the emails. And we've just chosen not to, because we really think that's important. We love Chattanooga and we want to share that enthusiasm. So everybody being local really helps that.
So you have are these like part-time people? Like, how do you, like, are you getting like enough business to justify the cost of having someone as a full-time, or how do you work around that?
So we have a reservationist on duty from either 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. to either 9 p.m. or 11 p.m., 365 days a year. And so that means basically 2.5 full-time jobs. And we have 2 reservation teams members who are virtually full-time. The good news is, even before COVID, when we started the business, we didn't have a physical office. We had our office in our house. And so basically we gave folks a laptop and a phone and let them work wherever they wanted to. And that's been a real benefit, I think, for our reservations team, because they can be on vacation at the beach and be working. And we have somebody right now who's doing that today. And it doesn't affect the guests. They can work from anywhere as long as they have the internet, which is super helpful.
And this is a full-time person with you?
Yeah, they rotate hours, but effectively we're paying them 40 hours a week. Yes.
And how do you work with someone like that? Are they also doing like other a task for you, like doing outbound, or are they only handling inbound?
Well, they are making outbound calls to folks, but they're not marketing to new people. They're marketing to folks that have contacted us either by email or by phone. We get text, phone, email, secure messaging through the online travel agencies. Um, we're on about 70 sites worldwide through NextPacks, and also through our new software at TrackPulse. Um, so we're on Airbnb and HomeAway, VRBO, Verbo. I'm sorry, I can't get used to that quite exactly yet. And it pushes through to other sites as well. So we're pushing through to a bunch of different sites, and we get requests from everywhere. Fortunately, we are merchant of record with every single one of those except Airbnb.
How did you said you took on somebody that deals with more of the marketing, and that they've been able to increase your direct bookings from around 20% to 50. How did you know, like, this is the right time for us to take on someone?
We didn't know. To be quite frank. We just knew we needed some more help in operations and marketing and managing reservations time and payroll and bookkeeping and all those pieces of the puzzle. I think when we got into this business, we didn't really think about all the pieces of the puzzle, which is why I say, oh, if you're just starting, go to the Vacation Rental Managers Association, get involved with that, go to VRM Intel and read their articles, go to VRMD. The inner circle that Matt Landau has is super powerful and effective. It's so helpful because the people on there have already learned, us as well, the hard way. So you can skip that hard part step and get the information and apply a best practice. And I think that's, we've learned as we've gone.
So what was that person's when you hired them on, did you have to give them instruction on how to be able to market and try to increase direct bookings, or was that something that they were already familiar with?
She was already very familiar with marketing. She's already very good at it. And she has a natural ability. Jen's just a genius at marketing. And she has a natural ability to read the world around her and then market to folks and what they currently need. And that's super powerful.
So how did you pre-qualify her for this type of position?
Sure. So my husband had actually known her longer than I've known my husband. So they had worked together at a previous organization, Lookout Mountain Flight Park, doing hang gliding. She worked inside the shop and was a pilot, and he, of course, was running the training program for pilots for hang gliding, and that's how they met. She was marketing for the flight park, and she was working with us as a part-time reservationist, and we had the opportunity to sort of bring her on full time, and we were grateful because she's just so good at it.
And what type of things is she doing to be able to increase your direct bookings so much?
I think it's a blend of all the social media and remarketing to our guests. So that plus the fact that Thor is handwriting those letters every month to every guest, I think we get a lot of return bookings, so return guests, and also making folks aware by using those links in social media, Instagram, Facebook, particularly, and then using direct marketing through email to our past guests or to people who maybe contacted us and we didn't have a space for them. We were already booked. That happens a lot. And so remarketing to those folks for a later travel time.
So it sounds like there's a lot of the years that you've been in operations, you've built up like a substantial email list, and that's kind of how you're generating those direct bookings is from a lot of that organic, warm audience that you already have.
Yeah, I think probably half of our bookings come that way and half come from that marketing, either friends or family telling other friends and family, or the marketing on Instagram or Facebook, and it reaches people share our posts and it reaches a new audience. And we'll see somebody particularly start sharing a lot of our posts, particularly on Facebook, and then we'll see direct bookings coming from those zip codes. It's so interesting to see that happen.
So what type of posts like are these? Like are you posting in just like general Facebook groups, or is this just like a Facebook page and people that like it, they're getting it? Like how are you reaching new prospects just from Instagram and Facebook?
Sure. So we post on our Facebook page, which is Chattanooga Vacation Rentals, and we have people share that. And that happens organically. We're not asking people to share it, but the posts that she's creating are like interesting and not necessarily about booking a vacation rental, but something about Chattanooga or the weather or what's going on in the world, or gosh, are you feeling hemmed up in your house right now? Don't you want to be hemmed up somewhere else, kind of thing. So it's getting shared because it's relevant and it speaks to people. And so they're communicating that to other folks. And that's that viral thing, where marketing goes viral when people share it with others.
What has been the most challenging part of starting your short-term rental business?
Oh, probably the bookkeeping, which is my bailiwick. I think if one is starting a business, it is very important to know what metrics you're going to want to track and to have that escrow be in order from day one and look at it every day or have somebody look at it every day because that's other people's money until the stay is completed. And from a legal standpoint in Tennessee, it literally is. Other states have a little different rules, but if one is starting a vacation rental business, start correctly and make sure you have all your ducks in a row.
And what are some of those key things that you are tracking?
Sure. So we are tracking average daily rate metric. We are looking at that blend of occupancy and nightly rate, and we're comparing it to the market. So when we started, because I'm an appraisal geek and come from that real estate background, I was doing a marketing survey. It started once a month and then it went to quarterly. And recently, the last year and a half, we hired Key Data to provide us that kind of data. But I would go into every online travel agency and look at what is the price and what does their forward calendar look like and report those metrics so that we could decide if we were priced appropriately, to try and price to market. And we try to be a little above market because we provide a little better result for a guest and for an owner. And so we try to keep those prices a little higher than the market. We don't follow that trend downward as people race to the bottom. We're not willing to, we're not a commodity. We're unique, and every single home is unique. And so we try to keep that high. But we would look at those pricing metrics. We also look at the pacing. So how far ahead are properties getting booked? We're looking at what are our expense ratios in each category. How much is housekeeping costing us compared to the booking level? What are supplies running? How much is labor overall costing us in taxes? How much is insurance costing us? General liability and umbrella insurance, all those things that help protect our company and also our property owners and also our guests.
It sounds like you almost have to be an accountant.
We do have an accountant, so they actually are vacation rental specific in attending conferences through VRMA and VRM Intel. We connected with some folks who do accounting just for vacation rental companies, and they're based in the Outer Banks. There are a lot of companies in the Outer Banks that manage professionally and have been for 50 or 70 or 100 years. And so they help us quarterly and year end make sure we have our house in order.
And what has been the most challenging part of scaling your business?
Making sure we have consistent results for our guests' experience. Because I see certain things, or my husband sees certain things, and we need to translate that. When you walk into a house for like condition and cleanliness, I see a light switch that needs to be wiped off, right? And not everybody sees it that way. So helping scale that and teaching one-on-one with our housekeeping team, because some folks are fabulous housekeepers for like cleaning my house, but it wouldn't necessarily translate to vacation rental because it's every surface, every time, under and behind. And making sure the financial stuff is right. As those numbers increase, there are so many details to confirm.
Yeah, and you said, going back to, because you're using this personality assessment, because these you're not hiring cleaners as contractors, are you? Are they full time? They're employees. So how do you how are you working with them? Like, how do you know like someone is like capable of that attention to detail? Is that strictly through the assessment, or is that something that you can also correct afterwards?
Absolutely. So not only were we doing the assessment, but we pair the housekeeper the first couple of times with our existing housekeepers that are doing an excellent job, and let them work together and then work with another housekeeper. And there's a training period where they do 5 or 6 cleans with somebody else. And then they'll start doing cleans on their own, and we have an inspection process. So every property gets a pre-arrival inspection. Sometimes the housekeeper themselves are doing that pre-arrival inspection, but we have a checklist for them to sort of make sure, hey, did I wipe every counter? Did I wipe under? Did I get behind? Did I get the fridge? Did I get the microwave? Did I clean the coffee pot? And sort of that helps trigger that memory of, have I done everything? Because sometimes if you get interrupted, maybe you're in the house cleaning, you get a phone call, where was I? Right? And having a process and a checklist really helps that.
And what are some of maybe the biggest lessons learned from training? Essentially, it's like you have your own cleaning company. It's just within your own company. But what are some of the biggest things that you've learned from training so many housekeepers?
People really want to do a good job, and if you have good communication and you have the ability to give feedback, constructive criticism, changeable behavior, and positive feedback, people will go the furthest mile to make it right. Some of that is really being able to give constructive criticism in a manner that's not personal. Hey, so I noticed you missed this. Let's not miss this again. And you did great on these 27 other things, and focusing on that positive and continuing to elevate.
Have you ever had issues with high turnover or having to let people go? Is that something that you've had to experience?
We really haven't. We've been super lucky. Most of the people who come with us stay with us. I think we've probably had 6 or 7 folks. Only 2 we've ever had to let go. If you don't show up for work, I'm sorry, you don't have a job. So um, we've been super lucky. That's all I can say.
And how have you been able to keep everybody occupied? Is it especially like even with like COVID and that whole situation, have you been able to keep everybody full time, or did you have to do part time? Like, how do you work with that flexibility?
Sure. So for our reservation team, they're hourly. For our housekeepers, they are piece rate. And we made the decision right after the pandemic was um, called a pandemic in March. We made the decision before the governor did at the end of March to shut down the business for April and see what happened. We had given Thor a gift a couple of years ago at Christmas because we wanted to pay for our team to enhance their training and education, whether it was inside our company or activities related to our company, or for something they wanted to move on to. We had several younger team members that college age. My goddaughter was one of them. And she wanted to learn to fly airplanes and wanted to become a commercial airplane pilot. So we were helping her with that personally. We decided we wanted to have a foundation that would pay for our team periodically to do different trainings and learning experiences and maybe help with college, whatever that was, to support our team. Well, it had been on the shelf for 2 years. And when the pandemic started, Thor and I said, okay, we got to revive this, make it an actual 501c3. It's called the Fly Foundation because of his and my pilot time and training, and also the fact that we were helping Emma with her pilot's license. And we decided to use the foundation temporarily as a gap. So if our team had an average wage of $1,500 a month and unemployment was going to pay them 12, we would pay the additional 300 out of that foundation. And we did that for about 8 weeks. We started back up with gaps between stays in mid-May, and then just came back as we learned more and more about the virus and the fact that we could protect our guests and our team. Team wearing masks and gloves and using things like Otoban and Spray 9 that kills the virus in 45 to 60 seconds, kills all viruses and bacteria. We could open back up full time with no gaps. And we basically, at the end of May, went back to full operation. But in that interim time, our team that had maybe a financial gap, we wrote them a check out of the Fly Foundation because we wanted to try and keep our team together. So
that's really, I think that's really powerful that you would do that. It's definitely scary, having to, not only are you shutting down the business, but then you're also, giving money away. It's like, holy cannoli. That's a very, very strong move.
We were very, very fortunate to be in a position that we had a little money saved and were able to put that in Fly Foundation. And then the federal government decided to authorize the additional income for a lot of those folks. And so some of them didn't even need it, but we were able to provide it to those who did, writing checks.
What's one house rule that you include that has saved you before?
A house rule. Oh, no events or parties do not exceed the occupancy of the house itself. Period. And we use noise aware in some of our houses. It's like that smoke detector for noise. We had some of the first units. One of them, I think, was number 7, hand numbered number 7. But we had somebody back up to a house that had previously been sort of an event location, and it was a residential house, but it was owned by the Tennessee River Gorge Trust, and they use all their income to conserve the Tennessee River Gorge, and we support that enormously. They're one of our entities to whom we donate every year from the company. And we had somebody back up a truck full of chairs and sound equipment, and the noise aware went off. And so we had an outside camera on that property because it's also right near a trailhead. And so we keep security on that property pretty good. And we called the guest and we said, hey, you can't exceed the occupancy of 10 people, and you got a lot of chairs in there. And they said, well, we were going to have a baby shower. So I looked up their reservation. I said, you made this reservation 7 months ago. So I am suspicious that you're not really booking it for a baby shower. You can either pack up your stuff and go, or I can call the sheriff. Which do you prefer? So that house rule, no events and parties, has saved property condition, I think, a number of times.
And what would you do differently if you had to start from scratch?
Oh, I'd be so much more organized at the beginning. I would have the framework in place. I would do all the reading and education through those entities that I've talked about before, VRMB, Inner Circle, VRM Intel, VRMA. I would attend a conference. Of course, we're not doing them in person right now, but they are doing them internationally and, by video, nationally and internationally. I would do all the education first and set up my business knowing where I wanted to go. I'd have a better future vision in mind.
And where do you see short-term rentals going in the future? And especially like, you're going through, some uncertainty in the Chattanooga area. How do you see short-term rentals in maybe these smaller vacation areas or urban areas being affected?
Sure. I think we're going to see more professional management and less property owner managed, except in a few occasions, because professional managers, quite frankly, get better results, higher occupancy, higher nightly rates, better property care and condition, and the owner doesn't have to lift a finger. Quite frankly, if an owner makes more than about $35,000 or $40,000 a year, if they have to spend 8 to 10 hours every week on managing their vacation rental, they are taking a loss on income. They'd be better off doing something in their profession than managing their rental in most markets.
And what's one question that maybe you have for maybe someone that is a similar size than you or the similar operations, or maybe at the next level where you're trying to go? If you could ask them any question, what would that be?
Sure. We ask them questions all the time. What's the next most important thing I should do to make sure that my business is stable and long term for the health of our community, our employees, and our guests and property owners?
Can you give a specific example of with that?
Sure. So if you look at our size and the number of employees we have, part time, full time equivalent, and the number of properties we have, what is the next key position I need to be thinking about for the future as I scale to double again?
And what type of key positions would those be?
Sure. So you might have something in operations or in property care or in reservations or in marketing or in business development for new inventory. Which of those next pieces, accounting, which of those next pieces is the most crucial to have that stable foundation to move forward?
Mm. Do you feel that there's anything in your business where maybe you are feeling a little bit more pain at your size?
Making sure we're doing the accounting correctly, but I think that may just be because that's my world all day with this part of the business. Making sure the numbers are right, making sure that we are honoring our fiduciary obligations to the guests when we hold their money and to the owners as we pay them out for the stays.
Awesome. Awesome. And what's the best way if anybody wants to be able to reach out to you, Christina, if they have any questions or they want to be able to stay at one of your properties, how can they connect?
Sure. So if they want to stay at one of our properties, ChattanoogaVacationRentals.com is our URL. That's the website. You can go and book directly online. You can look at all the properties, see the pictures. You can also call our reservations number, which is 423 777 3003. If they want to connect with me directly, I'm Christina at ChattanoogaVacationRentals.com. They can certainly reach out.
Awesome. Yeah, and of course, I'll include everything, all the links in the show notes. And I love the domain name, and I actually kind of want to comment on that. It's very, one, it's a great domain name, Chattanooga Vacation Rentals. You can't get any more clear than that. But there's a lot of vacation rental management companies out there that maybe they have unique or catchy names. Was there a reason, or were you kind of strategic as to naming it this?
Sure. I wish I could say we were strategic. So when we started, we were Cabins of Chattanooga and Lookout Mountain Vacation Rentals. And people would say, do y'all have an identity crisis? And so about year 2.5, the URL Chattanooga Vacation Rentals became available. Somebody reached out and said, hey, we've been banking this. Do you want to buy it? And so we negotiated with them and bought the URL.
Very nice. Yeah, I like it. It's just very clear to the point. That's good. It's probably really good for keyword ranking on Google as well.
It probably is. Probably
Awesome.
is.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christina, for taking the time. And until next time, Host Nation, keep on hosting.
Take care.
Hope you hosts benefited from the show. If you found value, please go on over to iTunes, leave us a review, and let us know what you enjoy about the show. If you'd like to talk to hosts that have been featured in these episodes as well as the community, go on over to our Facebook group, The Host Nation.